The Bubble Tree by Josie Moon. Illustration by Laura Costello. One summer afternoon, I was on my swing by the sea. I kicked my legs in front of me as my head hung back, laughing at the world upside down. Forward and back, forward and back. I imagined jumping off and flying. I thought if I let go, I might float out over the sea. I did this every day. That afternoon in particular, the wind felt different. It felt cool and warm at the same time. Reaching my toes toward the sea, something caught my eye. In that moment, the wind picked up and blew my tattered dress in every direction. I squinted my eyes through the wind and spied a shiny bubble drifting toward me. It floated closer until it reached the tip of my nose. I followed the rainbow colors swirling inside. Then it popped on the ground and disappeared. I looked at the earth below, and before my eyes, a tree began to grow. First a tiny trunk, and then grew branches. They twirled up toward the sky. Rather than leaves, the tree grew bubbles. There were big bubbles and small bubbles and medium-sized bubbles. I jumped off my swing and was caught by the soft moss. I reached my hands in the air. I tried my best to catch one, but they appeared and then left. Each bubble was on its own path into the sky. I walked right up to the tree and ran my fingers over the smooth bark. I closed my eyes and decided that I wanted to go with them. I longed for my own adventure. Then the bubble tree spoke to me. Fly like my bubbles and go see the world. You can always come back to your roots. My toes gripped the earth, but the wind blew me to the edge of the cliff. I peered down into the water. There was a little yellow boat. It bobbed in the splashing sea, forward and back, forward and back. My heart beat quickly as I scrambled down the path, careful of my bare feet on the tumbling rocks. I hopped into the boat, and my journey began. The sea was vast and uncertain. The boat resisted the waves, but it eventually found a flow. The wind carried the water that carried me out to the horizon. I found my current when I sailed, and my heart grew just a little bit. The boat took me to the edge of a long dirt road. It seemed like a friendly path, so I decided to follow it. The stones in the road looked up at me and smiled. I felt lost at first, not knowing where I was going. Then I found my stride as I walked, and my heart grew just a little bit. The path twisted like the branches of the bubble tree. It felt like I was walking forever. I walked until I reached a tall mountain. The peak seemed to be touching the sky. The darkness fell as I began to climb. I thought if I reached the top, maybe I could touch the moon. The mountain was steep and very high, but I wasn't tired. I found my strength as I climbed, and my heart grew just a little bit. Higher and higher I went until the clouds surrounded me. The moon shone bright through the only blue patch from the night sky. The fog was so thick I couldn't find my way. Fear crept over me. Which way should I go? All of a sudden, I saw specks of color swooping through the pockets of mist. Then I felt something flutter past my ear. It was a butterfly. I ran after it. There were hundreds of them dancing in the moonlight. I jumped into the air, waving my arms forward and back, forward and back. My feet lifted off the ground, and I rose into the mist. I found my light when I flew, and my heart grew just a little bit. Slowly the mist began to clear, and the sky turned into a deep orange. I floated back to the ground and realized I flew very far from the mountain. The butterflies kept going as I waved goodbye to them in the morning light. In front of me was a field of tall yellow grass. As I walked through, the tips kissed my knees. The wind blew tiny seeds through the air. They swirled around me. They swirled like a rainbow colors inside the bubbles. I reached out and caught a handful. I imagined the flower that each one would grow into. I rolled the seeds from one hand to the other, forward and back, forward and back. A purple seed slipped through the cracks of my fingers and fell to the ground. I tucked it gently into the soil. In seconds, a little green bud sprouted and then grew into a tall stem with twirly leaves. At the top was a purple flower. I grabbed handfuls of seeds and tucked them into the earth. I watched a sea of colorful flowers bloom. I found my beauty as I sowed, and my heart grew just a little bit. My eyes grew heavy, and my legs felt tired as I lay down in the grass among the flowers. Their sway in the wind hushed me to sleep. I dreamed of a big party. My dress was made of marigolds. There were musicians playing wonderful music. I heard laughter as the drums played louder and the trumpets rang through the air. I danced and twirled in my new dress. With each step, I spun faster and faster. I found my rhythm when I danced, and my heart grew just a little bit. When I opened my eyes, there was no more music or laughter, only the sound of the sea. The sky was above me, and the soft mass was under my back. I was back on the cliff. I glanced up at the bubble tree. There was one bubble. It floated down and hovered at the tip of my nose. I gazed into the swirling colors and saw my own face. But I wasn't the girl I remembered. I felt wiser, stronger, and more beautiful. Then my heart grew just a little bit. I reached my dream when I followed it, and my heart grew just a little bit.